In our next segment, we have Marwan Boodai, who is one of our keynote speakers. I had the pleasure of speaking with him briefly today, and I am so incredibly impressed and inspired with him in just our short conversation. For those of you who don't know, he is the CEO of Boodai Corporation, the institutional founder of Jazeera Airways, and the chairman of Jazeera Airways. Boodai was also a member of the core founding team that led the establishment process of the airline, from raising capital for what would become the first non-government airline in the Middle East to securing traffic rights, fleet negotiations, and financing. On the topic of becoming the first non-government airline, Marwan Boodai has much to say, but I'll let him share his thoughts with you personally. Please welcome Marwan Boodai.
Thanks, Ariane. I don't know if that's working now. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for your kind invitation, and to LBS and to the Middle East Club for having us, for inviting me in here to share with you together the story of Jazeera Airways. This is a true story. And we're going to show you step by step how the airline started up, how we grew, where have we reached, and where we're going to go forward. Good, it's working. So when we took the skies in 2005, we basically broke the grounds. We broke the Kuwait government's monopoly for 50 years in aviation. It was a taboo to talk about airlines in Kuwait or in the entire Middle East. Governments won't listen to you. They won't even give you a chance to talk about it. It's only governments that own the military in the Middle East. They own the police. They own the airlines. Full stop. But we kept going and going. Today, we're one of the most profitable airlines in the world, and not only the Middle East. This is a true story. So before we start, I'd like to point out that this story is written by the team of Jazeera Airways. I'm just here today to talk about it and to tell you what has happened. The true driver behind Jazeera Airways is the people, and it's the team that we have back home in Kuwait. Sorry. We have 4 chapters today. I'm sure you're familiar with these titles: Mission Impossible, Few Good Men and Women, of course, War of the Worlds, and Top Gun. It's just a coincidence that this is the Tom Cruise movies, but our story is not far away from him, you know. We've been facing challenges all over and there. It's not easy to start a business in the Middle East, but it's very, very rewarding when you can crack the shell in there. So in 2003, we approached the government for a licensee to operate an airline in the Middle East. Everybody said no. The cabinet in Kuwait said no. The undersecretary said no. No one is even willing to listen. There was only one man. The prime minister then, the emir of Kuwait now, had an ear to listen to us and said, you know what, these guys might have something to add value in here. We've got a government airline, Kuwait Airways. If we're not going to privatize it on time, why wouldn't we allow the private sector in Kuwait to establish from scratch? We don't want funding. We don't want anything from the government. We just want a nice little piece of paper to allow us to operate an airline. It was difficult, though. They gave us all the reasons why not. They said, how can we accommodate only one licensee? Why only this party would have the licensee, and so on? So that means a great opportunity for being the first movers. And we knew it, that it was going to be too difficult, very difficult to obtain such a licensee. That's a monopoly that we need to break. And again, you'll always have good money in monopolies when you break them. But also meant that it was neither a legal framework in Kuwait to support us. We had to redraft the legal framework in Kuwait in order to be allowed to operate an airline as a private sector. And it meant that a huge political risk for the government if they award such high-profile concession to one single entity. So they gave us, again, all the reasons why not. We didn't stop in there. We made sure that, in other words, whenever they said no, we kept going on. Chapter 1, Mission Impossible, how to get a license of an airline in the Middle East. So we kept on challenging the government. We never stopped challenging. And we said, we have to convince you that we just wanted to start a business. Persistent is vital and important in our part of the world. Never take no for an answer. Just keep pushing if you really believe that you can get to where you want to get to. We answered their issues. We recreated the laws with them. We said, fine, if the law stops us in one end, we can find solutions. And when they said, why only this license to you? We said, if you want to share it with others, we can do an upfront IPO. Well, that's something new in here in this room. But yes, we did have in Jazeera Airways an upfront IPO. We agreed to take only 30% as promoters, and 70% of the whole entire company was floated upfront. Finally, 2004, by pushing and keep on pushing with the government, we obtained our, what we call Amiri decree for a public company in Kuwait. That's a very special licensee granted with concession from the Emir himself. In May of that year, the IPO kicked off. The first airline IPO in the entire Middle East. It's 100% privately owned. Not only that, the IPO oversubscribed 12 times. That was the most successful IPO in the history of Kuwait, and we're still a piece of paper. Continuing on the challenges, getting traffic rights for the launch was another major challenge. Again, in our part of the world, all the governments around us are used to government airlines. How would we give or grant the traffic rights to the private sector? What would that carrier be doing in there? We've got the giants, we've got the Emirates, we've got Etihad, we've got Gulf Air, we've got name all these big names, Qatar Airways and so on. But we said, well, and we got Kuwait Airways in Kuwait. Even the laws in Kuwait were all drafted around one single entity, which was Kuwait Airways. We negotiated with the government. We said, you know what? We can join hands together. We went together, and we joined forces, and we went around the region to renegotiate the bilateral of the state of Kuwait to allow for a dual carriers instead of single carriers and so on. And we got really good listening ears from our neighbors, and they, in a way, they encouraged us when they heard our story. So again, it's all about persistence. We started with a no. There are no traffic lights. How can you run a business of an airline without traffic lights? But we made sure that we obtained the license by just keep on pushing. The third largest challenge that we had, securing the long-term partners. Who would trust an airline that's established in the middle of the desert with only 4 aircraft, with no history before in the whole region of private entities running a business as an airline? We needed MROs, the maintenance partners. We needed the reservation system partners. We needed ground handling partners. We needed all that. And most of all, we needed funding. We want banks to believe in the entity and the business that we are in. So in 2004, we had our first aircraft order with Airbus for 4 A320s. By June of next year, we secured financing with Airbus order managed by DVB, a great bank, a German bank specialized in the logistics and transportation, supported by the largest bank in the Middle East, National Bank of Kuwait, along with the KFH, the Kuwait Finance House. So the trio, again, believed in the story of Jazeera. We've showed them how we can run an airline successfully, and not only that, and before we even took skies, we were awarded the most innovative deal of the year, awarded by Air Finance. We got a big trophy in New York for that, and we're really proud about it, that a startup can do that. In October 29th, officially we launched Jazeera Airways. Prime Minister then, His Highness, the Emir of Kuwait, Sheikh Sabah Ahmed Jabir Sabah, integrated the flight of Jazeera. Truly, he was the driving force in the government behind establishing Jazeera. None of the cabinet members really believed in it. He single-handedly, he really believed that, yes, it can be done, and let's give the private sector in Kuwait a chance to do it. So in October of that year, we launched the base network with aircrafts, with 2 aircrafts and 5 destinations. Our number 1 destination was to Dubai. It's a great destination then and now. It's our largest destination so far. In November of that year, the aircraft order increased by 6. We knew it. We can see it. You know, the growth is there. The potential is there. The market is just waiting for an airline like Jazeera to come and serve and break a 50-year monopoly. So we moved on. In 2006, again, expansions, name it. I mean, before it was just going out of the roof in there. And we received the aircraft 3 and 4. We carried 600,000 passengers. By the way, when I say 600,000, Just for the audience, Kuwait population is 3 million. So that's a big, big number when you talk about 600,000. Network grew to 15 destinations, and we recorded the first year of profit, 2.5 million KD. That's very rare for any business to record profit in first year, mind you, an airline. And with all that success and all what we have driven into the market, we got the big guys looking at us. And your challenge is, and your competitors are government. And as we always say, they owe the military, they owe the police, they owe the immigration, and everything in there. Here comes the jealousy. So they become to fight us. What did we do? What was our crime? I mean, we just started an airline. We just started the business. Is that something that we should be claimed for? Not really. The only reason that they fought us because we introduced low fares in the Middle East. That was the first time in Kuwait where you would have any ticket sold at $59. It wasn't heard of. And again, governments fought us. I'm serious in here when I say government fought us. They said, you can't sell low prices to the public in the Middle East. That's a letter by the Syrian civil aviation authorities threatening us that they will stop our operation to Syria if we continue selling at low prices. This is our friends in Egypt. Another threat. We reconsider your traffic rights if you continue doing the bad things. Even in Qatar, they removed our posters from the streets. They said, you cannot advertise low prices in Doha. That's simply not allowed in the Middle East. Well, frankly, we didn't deserve all this. We're the nice guys in here. We didn't do any stuff like what we see here in Europe. We didn't do this. And it happens. We didn't go out in demonstrations. We didn't show Ryanairs with what they do with the with the revolutions. And definitely, we didn't lobby against our councils or our governments. We simply introduced low fares in the Middle East. And governments didn't like it. But we did have, and moving to our new chapter, few good men and women. We did have good people with us, a good team with us. And that's what really made the difference, and that's what they stood up for the challenge, and we knew that, yes, we can do it with the right team that we have. We got 42 different nationalities within Jazeera Airways. It's a great mix. So in 2007, we launched our second hub after Dubai. We continued, and we pushed our way through. We increased our aircraft order to 40 aircrafts. It's a big order, and business was just booming in there. In 2007, we received aircraft 5 and 6, 1.2 million passengers. We're simply doubling our volume. We're doubling our size. A growth to 15 destinations. We continued logging profits. So year on year, we're making more profits. We're conquering new markets, and we're opening up new destinations, and the market just loved it. 1.4 million passengers flown, a growth to 27 destinations, and a profit of 4.5 million in 2008. So year on year, we're having profits every year going on. Now, we started in Kuwait, and that was our destination, and this is our network. We're covering basically the regional network in our area. We grew fast. We said, fine, let's follow the European models. What did the successful airlines in here do? EasyJet, Ryanair, etc. EasyJet went to Geneva, Ryanair went to Marseille, etc., and started new hubs. We want to do the same thing. So we opened our second hub in Dubai, and we branched out, and we got new destinations. Only thing that we miscalculated, and it's very important for you in here as an audience, is the geopolitical risks that we have in the Middle East. The regulatory framework is not as secured as we have here in Europe. Well, we missed that badly, and that's what happened. When you grow too fast, you have to watch it in the Middle East. I hope one day things will change in there, but at that time, we were asked to close down and shut down completely our Dubai operation. The UAE authorities thought that, well, this is beyond your limits. You should be focusing on Kuwait. You cannot be operating out of another hub. When we looked at that, we said, you know what? Fine. Let's regroup. Let's rethink. There is no use fighting governments in our part of the world. So we entered into our third chapter, Word of the World. It was a difficult time. being kicked out from the UAE for no reason, just because we're carrying more passengers. And we had more seat dumping in our market. 44% of the entire seats flown out of Kuwait were empty by all the carriers. We got giant aircrafts coming onto our market. We got the 380s, we got the 777s, we got all that. Deep pockets with the governments, and they can't afford to run the airlines at losses. Not only that, in 2009, I'm sure some of you recognize very well, we got hit by the financial crisis in Kuwait. So we had like a time lag from what happened in here in Europe and the rest of the world, and when we felt the impact in the Middle East. And that was coupled with a drought of international banks funding. Simply, the banks were not there internationally. They cannot finance airlines or aircrafts anymore. With that happening, we really went into the red. And we recorded our first ever loss of 8.2 million KD. That's big money. And again, KD is the highest currency in the world. So it was a lot of money for our capital and our size then. What have we got? We got our team. That's the most important thing that you do in a business. Have the right team. So we grouped our team and I said, we're going to put a strategy and we're going to work it out. And we have to have a very clear strategy of what we're going to do. And we have to have the right team to execute that plan. And the team has to believe in the strategy. It's not something that you impose it on the team. So we decided that the best would be is to have the team build up this strategy rather than dictate it to them. And that's what we did. We looked at our strength. We have the youngest fleet in the Middle East, 11 aircrafts. And by the way, till today, we have the youngest fleet. We keep just rotating the aircrafts in there. We've got great 27 destinations, a network spread out through what we call 2.5 hours, perfect for any successful airline. With a leading market share out of Kuwait, that's something to hold on. And a brand is one of the strongest. It's one of the top 10 brands in the Middle East for a new company that's less than 5 years old by then. We've got our weaknesses on the other side, that our Indian destinations is a bloodbath. You never make money in India, and I don't think you're going to make money flying to India in the next decade. So, loss-making routes. Sudden stop of Dubai. Boom. 1/3 of the entire network of Jazeera is vanished within just a stroke, simply because governments decided to do that. Mounting monthly losses. Just imagine, the airline business is heavy on cash flow. When you say losses, it's a huge losses, monthly losses. We got our opportunities. Let me start with threats. It got even worse when we had the hike in the fuel prices. That was in 2009 and beyond. That's when we reached and exceeded the $100. We had another airline established in Kuwait. They thought, well, Jazeera is successful, let's start an airline. It was a legacy airline. Unfortunately, what they did is they had an identity crisis. It was a very, very high-end product, selling at very, very low prices. Just the equation can't work. So they dumped more capacity to the market. All airlines flying out of Kuwait flew 44% empty seats. Why are you flying all this capacity in Kuwait if 40% is empty? We couldn't understand it. No logic, really. Large remaining order of 29 aircraft. Here we're talking about billions of dollars of commitments that we have to face with Airbus. What are we going to do with it? No banks to finance. UAE cut us out from 1/3 of our network, financial crisis, and so on. Drying up of funding by international banks. And that was a major challenge. But we had opportunities. High growing demand for regional travel, growing at a pace of 15% out of Kuwait. This is one of the highest in the world. When you say 15% growth. Consumer growing disposable income. And the high oil prices, though it's one of the biggest threats for any airline, but in our case, we looked at it as another opportunity. It meant that the government can spend more, and they did. They spent more on consumers, they raised the salaries, etc., and perks, and they spent more on projects and infrastructure. So that created demand in our market. Our team sat together, they thought about it, and said, well, let's put a strategy. How to handle such a situation. And if I call, what would you do? Now, I'm going to kindly ask the audience in here to give us some thoughts. What would you do? If you have some ideas, Fawaz will kindly, on the side in there, just write down some of these suggestions. I'll have a sip of water. Any suggestions? What would you do if you face such challenge? Overcapacity, cut out from 1/3 of your destination, more aircrafts than you need, drying up funding, but you have an opportunity. And you have a great opportunity in Kuwait, as I said in there, with consumers spending already in there. Any suggestions on this table? Come on, guys. This is the London Business of School. No ideas? Okay, go ahead. At the back there, please.
Well, first of all, you look to expand the network towards destinations that are not served by Kuwait Airways, so as not to tickle again their...
Okay, so expand network. Fine, thank you. Over there? Yeah.
Just add on the expanding network, maybe go to emerging markets like East Africa, or maybe...
New markets, shall I
New
say?
markets, exactly.
New markets.
Frontier markets.
Great. We need one or two more. Yes, please.
Yeah, you restructure your debts.
Restructure the?
Debts, loan.
The debt. Okay. Financial restructuring. We need females in here. I mean, it's not a men's world. This is an airline. She said, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I think you said.
Okay, reschedule the delivery of the aircraft with...
Okay. Delivery phase out.
Cost cutting, maybe trying to get back to cash profitability at least.
Great. Cost containment.
I think you should learn from the West and ask for government bailout.
What's that?
Government bailout.
Government bailout. Great thinking. Let's put it there. Sorry? Okay. Good. So we got some great ideas, 6 ideas. Expand towards the unserved destinations, new markets. Well, these two are the same. Restructure the debt, reschedule deliveries, focus on getting back to profitability, and pursue government bailout. Great. Can we go back then to the presentation? These are great ideas. Our team thought about them. But in reality, we knew that our agreement with the government of Kuwait was we are standalone. We're not going to be subsidized. Kuwait Airways is the one to be subsidized. We knew that we can do it ourselves. New markets were another challenge as well because we got 27 destinations. So we covered most of the markets, and here we're incurring more losses. Restructure the debt. It would help to restructure the debt. It wasn't really the cost of the debt. It was the mammoth commitment that we're going to face in the future. That was the order that we had in place. Again, rescheduled deliveries, yes, it helps. But believe me, when you have manufacturers who've got production lines, who've got people working in there, they want to see their aircrafts running out of their production lines. They don't want to delay them. So the focus on getting back to cash profitability is very, very important in any business. When you're faced with this situation, cash containment is vital to continue on. Pursue the government bailout. I wish we were in Europe. So, but to be fair to our government, they were supportive in many other ways. When they believed then in the airline, when they believed that Jazeera Airways can create more market, can create a job market, can fill a gap in the marketplace, and the consumers will enjoy it. Here what we did. We introduced TAP, our turnaround plan. It's a great plan because it's built by the team. They're the ones who made it, so they were the ones who committed to deliver the plan. We started with a resize the capacity. Second step is to go for profit before growth. We're not talking about expanding orders and placing larger orders for aircraft. We want to see our shareholders making more money rather than Boeing or Airbus. And step 3, revise the fleet plan on the long term. Let me start just with the first step. Resize capacity. Again, it was very, very vital. We knew it, that we can't continue going on with 44% MTCs. We couldn't continue with all that extra capacity that we have in the market. So we immediately reduced operation from 11 aircraft to 5. So we parked the aircraft in Kuwait. Kuwait is small, our airport's small. We got chock-blocked, with aircraft. We had no more space available in the tarmac in Kuwait to park aircrafts. We acquired Sahab Aircraft Leasing. We said, you know what, we got this asset. We can't keep the assets on the ground. We have to do something about it. So we immediately acquired a leasing company and used it as a vehicle to redeploy excess capacity. So sometimes you have to push the throttle at the front, invest more money in order to make sure that you can cross the bridge to the other side. Sahab was one of the best acquisitions we ever did. We leased out 5 aircraft to quality operators, Virgin America, Sri Lankan, and of course Jazeera. So Sahab became an entity by itself, arm's length relation between it and Jazeera Airways, so it has a beautiful now portfolio of aircraft, expanding from all the way San Francisco to Kuwait and to Sri Lanka. And it's 100% owned by Jazeera. That relieved us from the pressure of the excess capacity that we had in Kuwait. Immediately after that, so we reduced the airline overhead respectively. We had to release 1/3 of our team. That was, frankly, the most painful part of the whole journey. But the other 2/3 knew it, that if we didn't do it, we cannot survive. So we took the action, and we took it, seriously, but we did it in a very nice way. We didn't have any single claim from any employee throughout the process that we had, and everyone really understood that it's a matter of survival. So we had to take the measure, resize the capacity, resize the manpower, and restart them into a healthy level that we have in Kuwait. The second step was profit before growth. Focus on profit. Focus on cash flow. And as you said in here, cut costs down to make sure that you have the right cash flow to support your business. So we cut loss-making routes. We moved completely out of India, for instance, and all these routes. So instead of expanding the market, we said, you know what, let's regroup, think about the most profitable routes that we can operate in, and let's focus on these routes, as if you're building a fort, you're building your wall against your competition in the region. We simplified the product into one pricing structure. And we're going to show you this in a minute, but one size does not fit all. You cannot just bring a European or an international model and try to implement it in another part of the world, like the Middle East. You have to tailor it into the Middle East. People in the Middle East are used to 7-star airlines. So we need to reduce the low cost. You cannot go here at the bottom. You have to be there. And that's what we did. We restructured our product, we simplified it, and we increased the yield by delivering value for money. People appreciated it. They didn't mind paying a little bit more as long as they get the right product. They didn't want to pay cash on board for buying their food or other amenities. They wanted to pay upfront. We said, we're ready. They didn't want to buy for their luggage. They wanted to pay upfront. And we said, we're ready. And we simplified we had like 5 different pricing structures on our website. We regrouped that into 2. And we knew that in our part of the world, we've got more business travelers, so we revised the business model, invested in sales and distribution, including GDSs. And we're proud to say we started that before even EasyJet started the GDSs here in Europe. So with all that, you might say we're no more a low-cost carrier. Yes, we are. What's low cost? Even BA wants to operate at a low-cost environment, but it's value for money, what you deliver to your customers. Here is our business model when we started. So we got the 3 spheres: efficient operation, cost control, and let's call it the European LCC model. There are commonalities between any businesses throughout the world, but with our restructuring plan with TAP, we knew that we need to have it localized. So we simply introduced glocalize your product. So we brought in the global experience, and we localized it with our market demand, what people want, how do they feel more comfortable about it. So we changed into all-inclusive pricing, to business class, and value for product. We kept the rest as it is: efficient operation, fast turnarounds, that's what really reduces your cost, single fleet type, high utilization, and the cost controls. We outsourced to suppliers, reliable suppliers, Lufthansa Technique, Navitaire, part of Accenture, for the reservation system, our ground handling, our catering, everything, non-core is outsourced. High productivity, and we made this little twist. We looked at the direct and online bookings, and we said, you know what, this doesn't work in our part of the world. Let's change that part of it only. So we introduced a strong online and offline distribution. So travel agents is a big part of our marketing way. Again, our recommendation to you in here, when you start a business in the Middle East, adapt. Don't try to fight the current. Adapt to it. Get the best of the Western world, get the best of the new ideas, but try to localize. Get the global idea and localize it with the local experience in here. Did it work? Well, we were there in 2009. We were hit with a big loss. But when we started enhancing a bit our product, we moved our sphere. And we're not part of the giant legacies, etc. We're not at the bottom. We're today a very profitable airline. We have higher yields, and the consumers are willing to pay unless you offer, once you offer them value for money. The last part of our turnaround plan was to revise the fleet plan. And again, never start 3 wars at a time. Just focus. You will lose them all. So what we did is that we said, at the beginning, we'll go to step 1. Focus on our market and what we can do in-house. Then we looked at the growth, profit before growth. That was a vital thing to preserve our cash and to make sure that we are a cash-rich and positive company. When all that was done, we turned our guns to Airbus. And we said, sorry, guys, but we cannot sustain a large aircraft order. We're going to cap it at 15 aircrafts. Here are the reasons. That's what happens. It's beyond our control. Those are governments who are challenging us. So we reduced our Airbus order from, we canceled 25 aircrafts from the original 40, and we maintained 15 aircrafts. 15 aircrafts is about $1 billion. So it's big, still big numbers when you talk in airlines business. But that's the right size that you need for an airline in the Middle East and Kuwait in particular. So that was the last front that we had in TAP. We took them a step at a time. We never, let's say, barged into the 3 of them at once. No, we made sure that we cover the first step, move into the second, and then to the third one. And the team did it very, very successfully. A, because they're the one who designed it, and B, they were responsible for delivering it. So the right size airline in the Middle East. What happened? We saw the blue skies coming back again. And yes, it came in a big, big way. So in the first half of 2010, we received aircraft number 11. We still haven't had orders with Airbus, and we had to accommodate all this. We carried 1.3 million passengers. Turnaround plan launched. Sahab Leasing was acquired. The market was looking at us that Jazeera Airways losses widened. But we were confident. We knew that we were doing the right thing. In the second half of 2010, with all the actions and that taken in place, we recorded our highest second half profit ever since the inception. And the year's losses drastically reduced, and they narrowed down to about 2 million KD, much less than expected. And that was in a record time. We'll move then to Top Gun. That's what we thought, you know what, we've done all the work that we have to do. The skies are clear. Yes, we can get our market back again. Yes, we have challenges with governments having all these big extra pockets that are willing to spend, but we can have a very successful business model in there. In 2011, we carried 1.2 million passengers, sustained record profitability for every quarter since quarter 3, 2010. If you look at Europe, for instance, in here, airlines make losses in the first half of the year. They make a huge bundle of money in the second half. It pays off in there. In our part of the world, you can't do it. Don't do it. You can't just copy the same business model. You have to be consistently profitable every quarter of the year. The markets like it. They called it the grand turnaround. And that's what they love. What did we record? In 2011, we had an increase, 57 million in revenues. That's KDs. That's about $200 million, operating profits of almost 15 million, and 10.56 million. NBK Capital, part of National Bank of Kuwait, commented immediately on that one. For a full year results perspective, 2011, the first year following the company's turnaround plan, 2000 displayed the strong profitability. Again, they not only believed on the story, but they really looked very closely in there, and they knew it that, yes, Jazeera can make it. And that gave the confidence to the financial markets as well in Kuwait. We had an EBITDA margin of 31%, an exceptionally high figure in the aviation industry. Yes, because we delivered the right product for the consumers. So it's value for money. TAP concluded in December of that year. So we had TAP for 2 years. We started in 2010. It completed in 2011. And we returned to looking at growth. Markets want growth. Shareholders won't leave you alone. They want to have the growth. They want to know what you're going to do next. So with the launch of that year, we launched a new strategic plan called STAMP. STAMP is our strategic master plan. It's a long-term plan. And again, it was built, designed, and envisaged by the team of Jazeera Airways. A 3-year strategic plan developed by Jazeera team. It started in January of 2012, and it's going to end up at the end of next year. We're moving very well in STAMP. STAMP's mandate is to increase load factors on a very moderate pace. We don't need to have more than 68% load factors. We need to show return to our shareholders. Same 19 destinations. Again, when you thought about expanding the destination, we said, no, let's focus on the destinations. Let's know our passengers more and more. Go vertical rather than spreading horizontal. And again, that really paid off. What we really need to know now in our business plan for the next year and a half is just the names of the passengers. We got everything ready, planned, and set in there. Enhancing the yield was a main target for us and lead market share with the same fleet capacity. We keep changing our fleet, but the number of aircraft will not change. They're going to be the same. STAMP, 1 year on, here are the results. We had 8% increase in our revenues, double-digit growth in our operating profit, and 32% growth in our net profit in that year. Again, that really got the attention of MBKs and the others, and once again, strategy of focusing on profitability has paid off. You have to focus on the bottom line. The growth has to be at the bottom line. It can't be on the fleet size. It cannot be in the number of passengers. It has to be on the bottom line of the business. Not only NBK Capital, but CAPA, the Center for Pacific Aviation, on May 16th, commented that 2012, the carrier reported a new record profit of 13.9 million, about $50 million. It's making it one of the world's most profitable airlines by size. This year, first quarter, continuing on STAMP, again, we had impressive results. 15% growth in our operating revenue, 99% in our operating profit, and a 229% growth in our bottom line. Basically, with the airline business, you've got almost a standard cost. So every extra passenger is an incremental income. You've already paid for the cost of the passenger when you fly the aircraft. So all these extra incomes just went straight in our bottom line. And I think we're going to have another very good year in here. Despite the fact that we live in the Middle East. Let's not all forget that. We had Egypt. 1/3 of our destinations were flying here. But we managed really to ensure that we got the right capacity and redeploy our capacity. Our management was very focused. We had tactical cancellations. We had additions. We had name it. Because we were really focused and very close to our network and what the market demand is. Not only Egypt, but we had Bahrain. It's a very active market out of Kuwait. But again, we had turmoil in there. What to do? And we helped our government to vacate many of people were stranded in Egypt and other parts of the Middle East, including Syria. Today, we're not operating, unfortunately, to Syria. We used to operate to 3 destinations in Syria. A very beautiful market, a very high demand market out of Kuwait. I hope sooner than later that will come back. But despite all that, STAMP worked. And the management team knew this. Yes, we can deliver even if you have situations like this in the Middle East, as long as you can pay attention and be close to the market dynamics and what's happening in there. But then, when 2009, when we started with that, our yields were at the mid-20s. Today, we're talking about the mid-50s. We enhanced our product, we changed it a bit, we tweaked it. It's no more a European model, it's not a US model, it's a Middle Eastern model. And the consumers appreciated that. Oops, sorry. As you can see in here, we had the big losses in 2009. We had more profits in here, but we had big losses in here. Then we had consistent profitability quarter after quarter since then, and growing. So every quarter we're recording a record quarter over the years before. We simply managed our cost and made sure that we don't overrun with capacity. That's what you need to contain. We had the right yield and the right product for the market, and this just follows. You get profits immediately after that. So a strategy to drive growth and return. Leverage the cost advantages by receiving new aircrafts. It's cheaper to operate new aircraft than older aircraft. If you have got the financials and the support from your financial institutions in Kuwait and the region, you can get new aircrafts. And we keep replacing the older ones to our leasing platform. Lease out the older ones, dynamic and efficient utilization. Never stop in there, shocked of what's happening around you in the Middle East with the revolutions, etc. No, there are rooms. If it clogs up in Syria, Dubai will be open. If it slows down in Egypt, Jeddah picks up, and so on. Commitment to a standardized fleet was very important, really, for us to have the leverage low cost. Drive more demand, strengthen marketing activities. We're all over in marketing. Instagram, Twitters, etc., Facebooks, and so on, everywhere. Plus the traditional, of course, broadcast and newspapers. Marketing is very, very vital for our consumers in the Middle East. Drive more leisure travels and acquire more business customers. That was a core of our strategy, and that's what really paid up for our higher yields. Deploy experience-enhancing technologies. Today, Jazeera Airways sells 14% of our entire sales is through mobile apps. I'm talking about Android and iPhones. It's one of the highest in the world, not only in the Middle East. 14% of our entire revenue comes from the mobile apps. I'm not talking about laptops and other. I'm talking people picking up their phone, logging in there, and making a reservation. Very simple payment terms, and that helped to increase our demand. Discipline of use of capital. It's crucial. Strong balance sheet boosts competitive advantages. Our capital today is 40 million KD. Our cash reserves is 50 million KD. That tells you how focused we're at Jazeera Airways to sustain all the cash that we have. So you never know when you're going to use it in the airline business, of course. But you have to have the war chest ready and available. Fund dividends and fleet replacements. We can do that easily today, even with our internal resources at Jazeera. So the takeaways: never take no for an answer. You've seen it at the beginning, how the government didn't even want to discuss. Persistence was the motto that we have. It's very important and vital that you never stop in there. Plenty of opportunities in the Middle East. Plenty, believe me, especially in government privatization. We're still here. There is a lot to do in government privatization. All the utilities, all the services, everything, power, water, whatever it is, it's all government in the Middle East. I don't know why. When we started, we said to our government, I can't understand today why governments in the Middle East still own airlines. They should be in the business of governing, not running airlines, or buses, or whatever it is, or power, or telecoms, and so on. So there's a great opportunity with the government privatization and deregulation. You don't need to invent the next Facebook in the Middle East to make it and to make a big bucks. No, you just focus on the privatization. That will be great. Have a good, clean strategy with the right execution plan and with the right team to implement it. That's very, very vital. In sum, that's what has happened to Jazeera. That's where we were in May 2008. The market loved our story. They've seen the results. Here we are. Back then, we were a company of $70 million. Today, we're proud Jazeera's $700 million cap company in 7 years' time. Thank you very much. Thanks, Arina. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
I am so personally inspired by you.
Thank you.
The optimism that you display and the entrepreneurial spirit that you have within you is an exemplary thing to put on a platform like this, particularly for the younger people in the audience.
Thanks.
And in particular, your attention to the people that work with you and your market effort to include women was very noticeable. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
I only have one question.
Please.
Someone as optimistic as you, as inspirational as you, who goes forward and in your own words builds a road where there is no road.
Yeah.
Someone like you, where does the motivation come from?
Well, I mean, you have to do it. You have to break the ground. Somebody has to start something in the Middle East. And we see the opportunity coming up in there more and more and then every day. And as I said, you don't need the next Facebook in the Middle East to make it in there. There are opportunities, but it needs persistence, it needs hard work, and sometimes you have to think again out of the box. And in here, just don't take no for an answer. So if the government wants to have a solution, offer it to them and try to help them out to find the way to support you in it.
Yeah. I think people like you make an incredible difference to the societies that you live in. Thank you for your contribution and thank you for coming today.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.